Canada. I'm sure it's Sunday morning in most other parts of the world, and welcome to my living room. This is my office. I have my office in the back corner of this room in my house, and I think the time of doing live lessons on a Saturday night outside is over just for a little bit. The weather is getting quite cold here in Canada. In fact, right now outside, I think it's 1 or 2 degrees Celsius. So it's a little too cold for me to do these outside. So I thought we would come inside. So if you are wondering, where do I make all of the... Just checking to make sure everything's working. If you're wondering, where do I make the Tuesday video? I make it right there on that computer behind me. I use that camera up there and one of these lenses whenever I make the Tuesday English lesson. So anyways, besides that, I just want to say welcome to this English lesson. I have my cup of tea as usual, even though I'm inside, and I'm ready to spend just a little bit of time answering your questions. In a little bit, Todd will post the link over there and you can start to ask your questions. Please do use the form to ask questions, because that makes things just a little more manageable for me. So anyways, welcome to this live question and answer lesson on the English language. If you were here yesterday morning, you'll know that we talked about entertainment part 2. If you haven't seen that video, please do go watch it. It was a good video. I know a few of you were here. I know Ajne was here at the beginning. Lolly was here, and a few of the rest of you. Sean was here, and he's back again. Sean from Free 99 English is in the chat. I'm just going to say hi to him for a sec. I give Sean a special shout out because he is another English teacher on YouTube. So if you ever want to go watch videos that are made by someone else, check out Sean's channel at Free 99. Anyways, let's get started. I'm going to jump into the first question. And the first question is from Ajne. And he says, remember, Bob, you recommended me the book called The Pearl. So The Pearl is by John Steinbeck. It's a bit of an older story, but it's a nice, easily managed read in English. So Ajne says, I read it. Awesome. That's really good. It was a great story in a nice little book. Different from what I expected. I thought you might think that. Please recommend to me another book. Hey, Ajne, here's what we'll do. Leave a comment asking me to recommend you a book, because off the top of my head, I can't think of another one really quickly. I do have some ideas, but leave a comment, and then I'll try to think of something before tomorrow morning. I'll get up tomorrow morning and I'll respond to most of the comments. And I'll do a little bit of research for you and try to think of another book that I could recommend to you. But that's a great question. And I'm glad to hear that you read that book. That's awesome. Let's see here. Let's go to the next question. It's from Tao Loon. It says, Tao Loon says, hi, Boo, or Bob. Boo is my Halloween name. Boo, the Canadian. Sorry, that's a little bit of a joke. Ghosts say boo, and at Halloween, people say boo to scare people. So I guess on Thursday night, this past Thursday night, you could have called me Boo, the Canadian. Anyways, Tao Lun says, I love your English lessons very much. So my question is, can we eat the pumpkin after we decorate for Halloween, and can I keep it for years? We don't eat pumpkins very often anymore in Canada. We do eat squash, which I think is a relative of the pumpkin, but we don't eat the pumpkin after we use it for a jack-o'-lantern. You probably could, but the pumpkins we use for jack-o'-lanterns aren't the same pumpkins that we use to make pumpkin pie or other things. So I wouldn't recommend it, especially if you had a candle inside. Pumpkins usually have a candle inside. So I'm not sure it would taste good. Next question from Zakaria. I'm from Morocco. Hello, Zakaria. I have a question. Which is better, US English or UK English? Thank you. So it really depends. If you are learning English in order to do business, with people from the United States, or in order to do business with people from the United Kingdom or the UK, or if you are learning English because you want to go to school in the United States or the United Kingdom, that would determine which version of English you should be focusing on. Once you're advanced enough, you'll be able to understand both United States, American English, and British English. But if you have plans to study somewhere, or if you have plans to do business with people from a certain country, I would focus on that language. Certainly when you read English, it doesn't matter, because whether you're reading a book from Britain or from America, it will, in your mind, all sound the same. But yeah, think about what your plan is for using English and then go from there. Let me get to the next question. Let's see here. Taubio says, "Hi, Bob. So my other question is, why do you have to go outside in primary school, although it's very cold in the winter?" So yeah, at primary school or elementary school in Canada, in Ontario, that's grade 1 to grade 8. It's about age 6 to age 13. You have recess during the day. Recess is the time when the kids at school go out to play. And even in the middle of the winter, Canadian children go outside to play in the winter at recess. It's very healthy to go outside in the winter. Unless it's minus 20 degrees Celsius or lower, most kids will go out to play. Even our own kids on a Saturday in the middle of the winter, if it's minus 10, they will go outside to play. And it's no problem. When I go outside, when it's minus 5 or minus 10, it's cold. But if you wear your gloves and if you wear a toque or a winter hat, you're fine. It's really the wind that makes it the worst, usually. Let's see here. Edward has the next question. Edward says, "Hi, Bob. Is there a difference between start off and start out?" So I'm going to start off on a journey. I'm going to start out on a journey. Those would mean the same thing. But if I said you should start off by eating healthy, I wouldn't say start out, would I? I think start off is whenever you begin something, and start out, I think, would be more related to a journey. Although now that I say that, I think you could say both. You know, if you want to be healthy, you should start off by eating really good food. If you want to be healthy, you should start out by, yeah, they are almost interchangeable. Those two there. That's a good one, Edward. Good question. Thank you. Let's see here. Lolly Lolly says, "I heard some native speakers say, 'I did work' instead of 'I worked.' Is it common to say that? Thank you." So yesterday I worked. Yesterday I did a lot of work. It depends, Lolly, on how you're referring to the day. So in general, last week I worked every day. But if I was talking about specific tasks, I might say I did a lot of work every day, or I did work every day. Oh, that's interesting. See, in the affirmative, if someone says, "Oh, I heard you stayed home yesterday," you could say, "No, I did work yesterday." So it in some cases it can mean the same thing, but it's a very subtle difference. Paul from the Ukraine. Let's see what Paul has to say here. Let's see. So Paul from the Ukraine says, "Hi, Bob, how are you? I am good. I'd like to ask you, what does it actually mean if somebody says that he doesn't have enough lung capacity for something like track and..." Oh, it's actually lung capacity. So when you breathe, your lungs are inside. Your lungs are what take in the air. And when you are a long distance runner, you increase your lung capacity. At least that's as much as I know. But when you do track and field, or when you do those kinds of exercises, you want to have really good lung capacity. So not long, lung capacity. You want to have really good cardiovascular endurance. That's, I think, what the question was. Let's see here. Next one. Helen Rivera says, "You look like an aquarium sign for being such a good teacher and an extraordinary humanist. Will I be wrong?" No, I think I'm a Cancer. because my birthday is actually in the summer. So it's in July. Some of you thought my birthday was in August, but it's in July. So I am a Cancer. So I am not an Aquarius. I think you were asking for my astrological sign there. I think I got that right. Let's go to the next one. From Kenya, we have a question. Hi, Bob and Todd. Hello, Kenya. How are you doing? I'm doing good. How are you? What does being up off mean? Is it an expression? I saw this phrase in a song, being up off the porch. Thanks a lot. So if I was to say that I've been up a long time, it means that I haven't gone to sleep yet. So if someone was to call and say, wow, it's 2 in the morning, and you would respond by saying, yeah, I've been up since 6 a.m. I wouldn't use been, and been. We pronounce it both ways, by the way. I wouldn't say I've been up off. I wouldn't use those 3 words together. So maybe I'll have to look up that song, Kenya, and see exactly what it is. Leave me a comment with the name of the song, and I'll have a look at it at some point. Let's see. Anel says, is it possible to be French and confident in English? Why are French people stigmatized as losers in English with a weird accent? They're not. By the way, the French accent when you speak English is considered to be very attractive. It's when your accent is too pronounced. If your French accent makes it difficult for an native English speaker to understand you, they might not appreciate it. But generally, most people if you have a slight accent in English, it's considered somewhat attractive. So don't worry about having an accent. Sometimes people actually like talking to people who have a little bit of an accent. Let's see here. Let me clear up my questions here for a sec. Gabo has the next one. Gabo says, hello, Bob. Nice evening. Thanks. Hello, Gabo. Could you help me? I always hear the word momentum. Is there any difference between this and moment? Thank you. So momentum is once something starts moving, I don't have anything to show you, but if a car starts rolling, it gains momentum. That means it's hard to stop the car because it has a lot of forward motion. If my cup starts to tip, I have to make sure I stop it because it has momentum and it might roll right off the table. So moment and momentum are very, very different. I'm really enjoying my tea tonight. So hi, Piper. Piper Cares gave me a super chat there, $2. Thank you very much, Piper. And asked the question, do you say how not to or how to not to? We would say how not to, for sure. If I was to have a sentence where I wanted to use that phrase, Piper, I would say how not to be a jerk, how not to do something wrong. So definitely I would use the first one. Yeah, for sure. And thanks again for the super chat. By the way, when people give me money, I use it to pay for my internet connection out here on the farm. So thank you, Piper, for that. Let's see. Daniel is next. Daniel Moraira says, hey, Bob, how's everything going? Long time I didn't see your lives. Well, welcome back, Daniel. It's good that you see you're back. I was missing it. My question is, can you tell us the words ate, wait, and wait? So the last one is spelled wrong. So let's make sure. So 8 is the same as the number 8, right? When you wait, it means to be somewhere for a while, waiting for someone. Sorry, I'm using the word to define the word. And then the last one is weight. So I like to watch my weight. I don't want to be too heavy, okay? But you also maybe were looking at the word height. So height is how tall I am. So hopefully that helped, Daniel, and welcome back. It's good to see you here in the live stream again. Edward has the next one, and Edward says, everybody loved your phrasal verbs videos. Are you planning to make another one? Someday soon I will make another one. Right now I have a couple other ideas on the list that I'm going to do. First, the video that I just did this past week, I'm going to do Not this Tuesday, but I'm going to do a couple variations of that one. So you'll just have to wait. That one will be coming up soon. So let's see here. Daniel has the next question. Daniel, hello, Bob. I have a question. What does the word hella means? I hear it so much in American movies. I think it is slang or an informal word. Thanks so much. So it's actually slang for a swear word. So if I say I had this is a swear word, hell of a time. So the word hell is a swear word. Sometimes they'll say I had a hell of a time. Like it becomes hella, and then people will say it was hella good. So they are all variations of the swear word. So it's a bad word. Don't use the word. They're all variations of that word and the phrases around it. That's why you would have heard it in American movies. They swear too much in American movies. That's my question. That's my opinion. Let's go to the next one here. Let's see. Revi says, I don't want to ask a question, no problem. Just want you to make more daily conversation videos with real cases like you do in the gas station. Thanks, Bob. Those are all very helpful. Yeah, so I did learn English at the gas station, learn English at the restaurants. Those are a challenging video to make. I will make more, but they are a challenging video to make because I have to go and ask people if it's okay if I videotape them, and sometimes people say no. So I'll try to do it. There was a Christmas video last year I did. I might do another video like that soon where I talk to real Canadians to help you out. So anyways, I'm just gonna pause and say thank you to all of the people who are currently watching. Welcome to this English question and answer lesson. This lesson works in the following way. Todd, my friend Todd, posts a link over there. You could use the link to ask me a question. I will post the question in the chat and I will try to answer it as best as I can. And this video becomes a video, this live lesson becomes a video afterwards, which you should come back and watch tomorrow, and it will have subtitles on the bottom. So it works in a lot of ways. It works as conversation practice. We're having kind of a pretend conversation. And it works as good listening practice tomorrow or Monday if you remember to come back and watch the video a second time. So anyways, thank you for the 365 people who are here watching. If you're new here, you should click the subscribe button. That's a great button to click. And then you get notified whenever I make a new video. Let's go to the next question though. Renata has the next question. Renata, I need to take a sip of tea for a moment here. Renata says, hi Bob, it's good to see you again after a while. My question is, can stuff be used with a plural verb since it's plural rather than that stuff is? Can I use it in the plural? You can say that stuff is great, that stuff are, no. You have to say is. You have to use is with stuff. So even though I would say this remote control is very useful, it lets me turn my light up and down, I would also say that stuff is very useful, even if I was referring to a whole bunch of things, okay? I would never say that stuff are useful. Just ignore what I just said. You would not use the conjugation are, the plural version of it, okay? So stuff is generally used and conjugated with singular stuff, even though you can talk about a whole bunch of things when you use it. Davey from the USA, let's see here. Davey from the USA says, which do you choose? Ain't I, am I not? For example, I am old enough, ain't I, am I not? So that's a tricky one, because if I was to say to someone, I am old enough, aren't I? That's what I would say. I would say, aren't I? But your examples are correct as well. I could say, I'm old enough, ain't I? I'm old enough, am I not? I'm old enough, am not I wouldn't use. I would use am I not. So that's the one that I would use. So, but sorry, the one I would use is aren't I. So I would say, I'm old enough, aren't I? Aren't. Let me spell that for you. Aren't. Ooh, I did it wrong. Aren't I? Hey, Carlos Ferreira, thank you very much for the super chat. Very, very generous of you. I appreciate super chats. Again, I don't generally ask for super chats, but when I do get super chats or when people become Patreons, I do use the money to pay for my internet bill here on the farm. It's a little bit pricey. So thank you, Carlos, very much for that donation. You are awesome. Tina has the next question. And that question is, Tina, let's see here. Right above it, it says, Bob, I don't have any questions. I just want to tell you that I watch your videos all the time and they help me with my broken English. Thank you a lot. That's from Chabri Mohammed. Thank you very much, Chabri. Tina, though, I do really appreciate that, Chabri. Tina says, what is the best way to practice speaking English on my own without foreign friends? So 2 things you can do. One is you can shadow people on YouTube videos. What shadowing is you play the video and you listen to them and then you pause it and you say what they say. Then you play it, you pause, and then you say what they say. Another thing you can do is you can record yourself and then play it back and listen to whether you're doing a good job. What's great is if you can record yourself saying the same words and phrases and sentences as something that you have already a recording or a video of an English speaker doing, and then you can compare the 2. And then the last thing, I think I said 2 things, I'm going to say 3, is just to talk out loud all the time when you're by yourself. That way people don't look at you strange, but talk out loud as much as you can. Talk out loud in the shower, in the mirror, while you drive your car. Whenever you are by yourself, talk out loud in English, and that really, really helps. And I do have a video to help with that. I'm not sure exactly where it is yet. Just give me 1 second here. I made a video a while ago, how to practice your English by yourself, Bob the Canadian. I think I can find it for a sec here. Let me paste that into the chat. Learn English by yourself. So a while ago, I made a video. It's not particularly just for speaking, but there's a link in the chat right now. How to practice English by yourself. So Tina, watch that video. I give a few ideas of things you can do to practice your English by yourself. Renata says, do you celebrate? I laugh sometimes before I post the question because I'm already reading question, and I like this question. Renata says, do you celebrate Halloween? If so, how was it? So we did go out for Halloween. We took our 3 youngest children out for Halloween. Our oldest children stayed home so that if people came to our house, they could give them candy. But our 3 youngest children, we took them to the closest town and to some neighbors, and we went trick or treating. And so they went to the door, ring the doorbell. When the person opens the door, they say trick or treat, and they hold up their bag and the person gives them candy. So we did definitely go out for Halloween on Thursday evening this past week. October 31st is Halloween, and we went out and we did some trick or treating. So yes, Renata, we did go out and we did do a little bit of that. It was kind of nice because I got to see some of the neighbors who I haven't seen for a while. So that was really nice. So the next question is from Clyde. Hi, Bob. How can I pronounce the letter R? The letter R, that's a tricky letter, isn't it? I have trouble with the letter R when I speak French. Ajne was asking about that last week, I think, or yesterday, about how to pronounce the R when you're speaking a language like French. But in English, it's just like this: red, red, red. My tongue is in the bottom of my mouth and it's kind of curled up a little bit, and I'm saying red. I like to read books. I read a book the other day. I like to read books. I should do a whole video on the verb read, shouldn't I? Let's see here. Let's get to the next question. Luis Sanchez. I would prefer, Luis Sanchez says, hi Bob, what's the difference between prefer and rather? Well, I would prefer to go to a movie tomorrow night. I would rather go to a movie tomorrow night. In that situation, they mean the same thing. So if I was to say, I'm drinking coffee, but I would rather drink tea, or I'm drinking coffee, but I would prefer to drink tea, those two sentences mean the same thing. I am actually drinking tea, though. Okay, this is actually tea. with honey in it. Lots of honey, actually. I bought new honey today. I was at the store and they had what looked like really yummy honey. Lolly has the next question. Hi, Lolly. By the way, Lolly has been watching my live streams for a very long time, and I really appreciate it, Lolly. Thanks for being around all the time. Question is, hi, Bob, please, what is the difference between start and begin? Thank you. So I'm going to I'm going to begin. They are almost the same, okay? So let's say I was going to start a new job on Monday. I could say, I'm going to start a new job Monday, or I could say, I'm going to begin a new job Monday. In that situation, I would probably use start. It sounds better, but you could use both sentences. Like, oh, when does your new job begin? When does your new job start? You could ask both those. By the way, I'm not starting a new job. That was just an example. Very much so. Hey, I see people asking questions in the chat. Let's save the chat for conversation. If you have questions, please use the form that Todd is so nicely providing. It's nice that you have questions, but please use the form as much as possible. And thank you to all of you who are having conversations in the chat. It's actually a great way for you to have a little bit of conversation practice with some of the other people who are learning English here. So anyways, let's get to the next question. Jacques says, could you try to teach English through movies or TV shows? So I've thought about this, Jacques, but the problem is if I was to make a video on YouTube and if I use parts of a TV show or parts of a movie, sometimes YouTube doesn't like that. There are copyright laws that prevent me from using parts of other people's creative work. And I can do it because it's an educational channel, but I could get in trouble with YouTube if I use other people's work. So there are ways to do it well, but I usually don't do it. So I'm sorry, but it would be great, wouldn't it, if I could do that? Just break down a movie and explain it while you're watching it. But unfortunately, due to copyright laws, I'm not allowed to do that. David says, is the vowel in law and lot the same vowel? Almost. So sometimes people break the law, and I went to the store and I bought a lot of food. You can say them the same, lot, like I can say the word law and put a T at the end, but it is a slightly different sound, okay? I bought a lot, it's more of an O sound, or I broke the law, it's more of a flat A sound. So if you were to say them the same, no one would really notice too much, but I can tell when I'm saying it that there is a tiny difference between law. By the way, don't break the law. And if you break the law a lot, you'll go to jail. So there's some examples for you. Let's see here. Not sure I can answer this one, but I'll try. Anna L says, hi, Bob. How can we recognize I and Y, so G in a word, like cliff and child? Is there a rule? Oh, I see. Like the cliff is like the short I sound and child is like the longer. I'm not familiar as a native English speaker if there is a rule, but please ask that question in the comments and I will do some research and I will try to get you a really good answer as to whether there's a rule. I do know that there are some rules about if a vowel is followed by a single consonant and then another vowel, sometimes it makes a different sound, but I don't want to say anything off the top of my head and I don't want to make a mistake. So ask me in the comments, I'll do a little bit of research. If there are rules, there's probably a lot of them and it would be really hard to explain really quickly. Let's get to the next question here. Oh, there's a lot of questions. Sorry, people. Let's see here. Next one is from Bruno from Itaboraf. I'll need to look that one up, Bruno. Hi, Bob. I love your videos. Thanks, Bruno. How can I use the word up to modify a verb in an expression? For example, what's the difference between cleaning something and clean something up? So I don't know the exact rules, but if there are a lot of things in the kitchen, I can clean up the kitchen or I can clean the things up. In that case, I am gathering things together, okay? But if I was to clean the kitchen, it would usually mean not just picking things up, but also washing and wiping down the kitchen. In fact, it would more mean that I am washing the kitchen. So that's a tricky one. The word up modifies a lot of verbs. We have a lot of phrasal verbs with up, a lot of verb clauses that use up. So that's a tricky one. I could do a whole video on the word up. In fact, maybe I should do that video tomorrow. Or maybe Sean wants to do a video on the word up and the phrasal verbs associated with it. Man, it's a tricky one. I apologize for how crazy the English language is. Let's see here. Edward says, Bob, are those matryoshkas in the background? Are those matryoshkas in the background? Have you been to Russia? You're always welcome here. Yes, they are. No, I have not been to Russia. They were a gift from someone. I think they were from my in-laws, from my father-in-law and mother-in-law, and I can't remember where they got them from. I don't think they went to Russia. I think they might have gone to the Ukraine, or they had a friend come from the Ukraine that brought them. So they gave them to me as a gift. I also, behind me, have these little butterflies. These came from China. So if you're from China, I have these little butterflies that a friend of mine from China brought to me. And then I also have, this is a gift that came from all of you guys for subscribing to my YouTube channel. So that's my little silver play button up there. Thank you very much to all of you. I didn't check the number, but I'm at 251,000 subscribers or something crazy like that. So this was a gift from all of you. So I thank every single one of you who has been watching my videos and who subscribed. You guys are awesome. And then it's just my computer and my desk, and this is my stereo and my speakers and my lenses and my camera and my hats. I keep my hats up there. So that's what's behind me. Great question, Edward. Sorry, I think I took too much time on that question. I'll try to speed up a little bit. Luis says, hi, Bob. This is Luis from Monterrey, Mexico. Hello, Luis. Can you give us an example of the word straightforward? I've read this word and sometimes it's a little confusing. So when something is straightforward, it is easy to understand. I'll give you a great example. The instructions to make tea are very straightforward. You boil water, you put the tea bag in the water, you let it sit, you take the tea bag out of the water, you add honey if you want honey in it, and that's how you make tea. So those instructions are very straightforward. If something wasn't straightforward, if something isn't straightforward, it is complicated. So making bread is complicated. You need flour and yeast and water and salt, and you have to mix the ingredients and knead the dough and let it rise. And so making tea is very straightforward. It doesn't mean simple. Like, it kind of means simple, but making tea is very straightforward. I just want to thank, I have to check this again, Carlos Ferreira for that super chat again, because that was a big super chat. It's been up there for a while. So I just want to thank you again, Carlos. That is a very generous gift that you have given me. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. Let's go back to the questions. Let's see here. Let me remove a few that I'm done with. Maritz, let me get this right. Maritza says, hi, Bob. Only here to say hello to you and everyone. Well, thank you. I'm driving and it's also raining in my country. Have a nice evening. Well, thank you for just dropping in and leaving a comment. That's very awesome of you. I hope that you're having a nice time out there. Let's see here. Next question is from Andre. Yes, Andre is talking about the winter. Andre Cruciante says, hi, Bob. I can't even imagine how cold it is in the winter in your country. Winters here in southern Brazil, it's only about 7 degrees Celsius. That's like summer here. No, not summer. And I hate it. Do you really like winter? I do. I really, really like winter. When it is -5, -10, when there is lots of snow on the ground, it's just beautiful. I have done some videos outside in the winter for you guys. I will do more of them. And they are just really fun. Let's see here. Let me get to the next question. So yes, I do. I love winter. Fall, I love a lot. I like cooler weather, but winter is definitely my favorite season. Next question here is from Nixon. Hello, Bob. Could you talk about English native speakers' accents? Like how many are there and how different are they? So in Canada, there are not a lot of different accents in Canada. People from the far east coast, from Newfoundland, have a bit of an accent. Actually, people from PEI, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, have less of an accent. People from Quebec speak a whole different language. And people from Western Canada have a slight accent, but not nearly as much variation as the United States. In the United States, there are a lot of different accents. There's a California accent, a Southern accent, a Boston accent. So there are some variation, but probably the biggest accents are the American accent. Canadian is very close to American. And then, of course, there's British, Australian. There's a bit of an Irish accent, Scottish accent. Those would be the main big English accents. So, and they are different. But I can watch television as a native English speaker. I can watch television from any English-speaking country, no matter what accent they have, and usually understand it really easily, okay? So I think at a certain point when you're learning English, you get really good at understanding different accents. It's really not too much of a problem. Let's see here. Andy says, hi, Bob. If you don't mind, would you tell us what kind of kids' TV shows you watched when you were a kid? I watched Sesame Street. Sesame Street is still on. I watched Mr. Dress Up. That was a Canadian show. I watched Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. I'm going to spell it the American way. Those were some of the shows that I watched as a kid. Let's see here. Jose is asking, I think I'll have to do this in a video, Jose. Jose says, hey, Bob, could you teach us about prepositions in phrasal verbs such as off, on, over, out? Thank you in advance. So much bigger topic than I can do just in a live stream, Jose. So I will do a video on that at some point where I explain those a little bit. John from Brazil has the next question. Bob, when should I use dot, full stop, period, point, etc. for this symbol or signal? We say period. A sentence ends with a period. That's what we say in Canadian English and in most Englishes around the world. I'm afraid, we do have time left, but I'm afraid there are a lot of questions here. I'm going to keep working at it, and we'll see how many we can get through, but we'll do them in order. Albina says, good morning, Mr. Bob. Hello, Albina. Thank you for your lessons. The question is, in what context is the word seal used? It means see or what? Have a nice day. So there's the word seal. And the word seal has a couple meanings. A seal is an animal. It's a sea animal. But I don't think that's what you're talking about. A seal is, you can seal something so it doesn't leak. When I close this lid, it seals this cup so that it doesn't leak when I turn it upside down. But I think you're talking about the word not soon, seen. So seen is, the other day I saw a bunch of people. You can also say the other day I seen a bunch of people. I think saw is the more correct way to say it, but that would be that word. I think I've kind of answered your question just a little bit. Next one. Halu Guao says, hi, Bob. Could you give some usage of pivot? It always makes me confused. Thanks. So when let's see here. When you connect two things together in a way where one thing can turn inside the other, this can pivot. So when something pivots, it turns around a central location. So when I hook a wagon up to my tractor, the wagon hitch where it connects can pivot. It can turn. There's a pin that allows it to turn. We also use the word pivot, though, to talk about life. Like if you're going in this direction in your career and you decide to make a change, we sometimes say that people pivot. Okay. It's also used in basketball. So in basketball, when you're bouncing the ball, if you stop bouncing the ball and you hold it, you can't move anymore. But if you keep one foot on the ground, you can pivot on that foot. As long as that foot doesn't leave the ground, you can turn on that foot. I think they call it the pivot foot. So there's a little basketball lesson from Bob the Canadian. I don't know a lot about basketball. Actually, I coached basketball a long time ago, so that's not true. I know a little bit about basketball. Let's see. Kenya says, I'm here again. Oh, the song name is Old Town Road. So Old Town Road by Lil Nas and who is the other? Billy Ray Cyrus helps out on that one. I wouldn't use that song necessarily to learn English. There's a lot of real slang phrases in that song, but it's certainly a good song. I'm going to look at the lyrics after the live stream and maybe I can find the one you were talking about, Kenya. But great song. Maybe Old Town Road, maybe not the best song to learn English. So here we go. Ajni says, I love today's background. I can see your hat and the YouTube play button. Yes. Actually, that's a stack of hats. So all my hats are up there and there's my play button. I'm pretty happy about that, by the way. The day that this came, Bob the Canadian was a very happy person. So thank you once again to everyone out there who has subscribed. By the way, if you are new here, you should click that red subscribe button, and thumbs up are always welcome as well. Let's see here. Next question is from Anel. Do you have any tips for writing a good English resume form or some key verbs? I don't. Just be honest. A resume is the same as a CV, curriculum vitae. It's what you write when you're applying for a job. The only thing I would say, Anel, is be as honest as possible. Let's see here. P. Laura says, hi, Bob. Could you do a video about how to order food at a restaurant? I did one. I actually did one. It was a lot of fun to make. Let's see if I can find it for you. Restaurant. Let's see if that pops up. And I'll copy the link. How to order food, a restaurant. So there's a link to that one if you are looking for a video on how to order food at a restaurant. Mohammed has the next question though. Mohammed says, I'm from Morocco. I have a question about medical studies in Canada. Is it hard or not? And if they use English or French, thank you a lot. So my understanding is that in Canada, if you are training to be a doctor, you can train to be a doctor in English-speaking Canada, or you can train to be a doctor in French-speaking Canada. So we have universities in Canada that provide instruction in English or instruction in French. So depending on which language you want to practice medicine in, you would choose a university that offers the degree in that language. So there's no problem. If you want to practice medicine in French-speaking Canada, you can go to a university hospital in a French-speaking part of Canada and you can become a French-speaking doctor. Ça c'est très bien. It's a good idea. We need more doctors, by the way, in Canada. I know you need more doctors all over the world, but I think that if you are someone from another country and you want to immigrate to Canada and be a doctor, you should do it. We would be happy to have you. Let's see here. Claude Meir says, hi, Bob. I listen to a lot of songs in English, but I find it very hard to understand sometimes. When I see the lyrics, it turns out easy. Why? So we have the same thing in English. We often hear songs in English as English speakers, and we don't understand the words. We often look up the words to songs in English. Some singers sing very clearly, and some don't. So oftentimes I will hear a song, and I will come home, and I will go to my computer and look it up on the internet. So don't worry, it's not a bad thing. It's a normal thing. Let's see here. Ball says, hi, Bob. My question is, can I go to high school if I don't have a French certificate? So in Canada, if you are from another country and you did not have any French language instruction before the age of 13, you are not required to study French in an English high school. Hopefully that answers your question. I'm not sure if it did. Let's see. Renata says, could you make a video telling us about stuff at the supermarket? I know we may know most stuff there, but I've never seen a supermarket or grocery store in Canada. So I did one a long time ago, but I'm planning to do another one. I'm planning to do another grocery store video. The first one I made last, I think it was last spring, and I'm not super happy with it. So I'll put a link to it for a sec. Renata, let's see, learn English at the grocery store. I spelled it wrong. 1 second here. I'm typing. So I did a video about a year ago on the grocery store. It's not great, but at least lets you see the inside of a Canadian grocery store. Let's see here. Next question is from Carlos Ferreira. Thanks for the super chat, Carlos. Hey, Bob, I'm from Sao Paulo, Brazil. I study English every day, and sometimes I feel like I'm not making progress. What's your tip to get out of the plateau effect? Thank you. Here's what I did when I was learning French. I would go online, and at the website for Alliance Française, I would schedule a French test 6 months in the future, and then that would really make me study French a lot, and that would really force me to improve my French. So if you can, I don't know if you've taken your IELTS or a TOEFL test, but if you can schedule a test for a few months from now, Carlos, that might really motivate you to work really hard. And then you have a score, right? And then you can plan to take the test again 6 months later and try to improve your score. And then you have a good measurement. So that's helpful. Schedule a test. That will light a fire under your behind. We say other words in English, but there's a phrase in English to light a fire under your butt. Your butt is another word for your back end of your body there. So schedule an English test. That will really get things going. John says, hi, Bob. Here's my question. Is there any difference between the words they're absolutely the same? I mean, these ones, mad, crazy, insane, lunatic, psycho. They're all varying degrees to talk about someone who is not normal, okay? So mad can mean angry, but mad can also mean crazy. Insane, lunatic, psycho, very similar, just different degrees, okay, of the words. Hey, I see a lot of people asking questions in the chat. Little difficult for me to get all the questions answered at this point in time. I will try, but please use the form. Let's see here. Marco from Brazil says, hi, Bob. My family and I enjoy your videos very much. Well, hello, Marco, and hello to all of Marco's family. That's very cool. We loved especially the video about the library. By the way, does every city town have a nice library like that in Canada? It's actually the law in Canada. If there is a town of a certain size, there is a law that says that town has to have a library. So it's very nice in Canada. If you like to read books, there is usually a local library close to in every town of a certain size. Even the really small town that I live by has a library. So yes, there's lots of books in Canada, lots of libraries. And now you can even get books on your phone from the library. So you can get an app on your phone and you can use that app to check ebooks out from your library. It's very, very handy. I use that a lot, actually. I actually use my phone a lot. Let's see. Next one is from Bruno Diaz. Bruno Diaz says, hi, Bob. Bruno from Brazil. I wanted to know, what does the word overwhelming and overwhelmingly mean? Is there a big difference in meaning? So if I say, that was overwhelming, or it was an overwhelming experience, or if I say it was overwhelmingly well done, they're slightly different. I'm pretty sure one's an adjective and one's an adverb, but when I get into grammar, I make mistakes. But essentially, both of them are used to describe something that was more than what you would normally expect. So let me give you an example again of both sentences. So it was an overwhelming experience. So that would mean that the experience, the noun experience, we're saying it was an overwhelming experience. I was filled with emotion. Or if I was to say it was overwhelmingly well done, it means that they did it to the extreme. It was very, very well done. Next question. Bob the Canadian doesn't like grammar questions. I always feel like I'm going to, because I do this live, I'm going to say something wrong and then it's recorded for all time for people to say that I explained it wrong. Anyways, Manuel Contino says, hi, Bob the Canadian. When we said he arrived at 6 o'clock and he arrived on time, this pointing to the same hour, is there any difference? No, if I was to say, if I have to be at work at 6 o'clock and I say I arrived at work at 6 o'clock or I arrived at work on time, they mean the same thing in that case. Because if 6 o'clock is when my workday starts, that would mean that 6 o'clock is on time. So that would be my explanation there. Norma has the next question. Norma says, hello, Bob. I always have doubt about the adjective sympathetic in English. In Spanish, it refers to a person who is agreeable. Thanks. So if someone is sympathetic, it means that they understand your situation. So if I'm sick and I call in sick and I say to my boss, I'm sick today, and he says, oh, I feel really bad for you. Take the day off. I hope you get better soon. We would say that he is sympathetic. So he is very understanding. It doesn't necessarily mean that he is agreeable, okay? So sympathetic in English means, if I say, oh, I'm having a really tough time at my job, I don't get paid enough, and if my friend says, oh, that's not very nice for you, I feel bad for you, what can I do to make you happy? That would be someone who is sympathetic. Hopefully that makes sense. This is, I'm laughing at the name. The name here is Get Out the Way. And then the question is, we need to learn English from stories, small stories, because it is easy to learn from stories. And thank you, Bob. So I agree. I've done a few videos where I tell little stories, but I should do another video where I tell one truth, one lie, and you have to guess which is which. I might actually do that video this week. I did one earlier, but maybe I'll do a video where I tell a story, a little short story that's true, and I tell another little short story that's a lie, and you'll have to guess which one is true. Let me do that. I'll do that for this Tuesday. Look for that video this coming Tuesday. Those are fun videos to make, by the way. Kenny has the question, when can I use the word home and the other word house? Thank you very much. So house is very much the word we use for the building we live in, right? Like I live in a house. It's one family in one building, that is a house. A home is anywhere where you live, usually with your family. It can also be with your friends. But if you live in an apartment, you can say that it is your home. If you live in a house, you can say that it is your home. So home is more, you could live in a condominium, you could live in an apartment building, you could live in an old age home if you're old, and you would refer to all of those things as home. Home is where the heart is. That's what we say. But if you live in a building and the only people that live, and the building is separate from other buildings and it is a dwelling or a house, that's what we would call a house. Yes, Bob the Canadian just said a house is what we would call a house. So hopefully that means I've been doing this for almost an hour and my brain is starting to turn a little bit to mush. Not literally, by the way. Let's do the next one. This is from Simone, and this question comes up from time to time. It is challenging for people learning English to distinguish between can and can't. So Simone Ribeiro says, hello, I'm from Brazil, and I want to know how to pronounce can't and can. Sometimes when I hear it, it sounds the same. The reason it sounds the same is we speak too quickly. Sometimes I can't slow down. So I really pronounced can't clearly there. You can hear the t at the end. But if I speak really quickly, I could say, sometimes I just can't slow down. Sometimes I just can't slow down. Sometimes I just can't slow down. And it sounds like I'm saying can, but I'm saying can't. Okay, so let me say that again. Sometimes I can't slow down. Sometimes I can't slow down. Sometimes I can't slow down. So you can hear how I kind of slur it together there. Hopefully that helps a little bit. It really helps because eventually you understand the context of the sentence. So even though you can't, you know the person is already speaking in the negative. So let's see. Let's get to the next one. Tyler Zed. Tyler Zed says, how to talk to a baby in daily life. Thanks. If you're teaching the baby English, you just speak normally to the baby. I didn't use baby talk with my kids. I don't know if you know what baby talk is. Baby talk is when you say things like, oh, how's the baby doing? How's the little baby doing? Oh, cute baby, cute baby. I never talked like that to my kids. I didn't use baby talk. Maybe sometimes a little bit. You probably have the same thing in your languages where you speak with a little bit of a cute accent when you talk to your baby. So how do you talk to a baby in English? You just speak English and do it well. Let's see here. Next question is from Andy. Andy says, hi, Bob. I've heard of overwhelmed a lot in some videos on YouTube and in some American movies, but I'm not sure. I wouldn't use the word pretty there. I'm not sure that I get the exact meaning of this word. So when you're overwhelmed, you just have too many things. If you were to have 3 jobs, and if you worked 90 hours a week, like let's say you just worked every day all the time, you would be overwhelmed, okay? Because you wouldn't be getting enough sleep, you wouldn't be eating properly, and all you are doing every day is working. So your brain would be tired, your body would be tired, you would be overwhelmed. So it means a situation where you have trouble being healthy and you have trouble getting good rest. You are overwhelmed, you are doing too much. Let's see here. Next question is from Fratrisadrahan. Hello, what is the meaning of the words make sense and so far so good? So if I read a book and I understand everything in the book, I would say that the book makes sense. Okay, the book is understandable. So if something makes sense, it is understandable. If you say so far so good, if you have started something and you have not had any problems, sometimes in English we'll say, well, so far so good. So it means since you started that thing until the current time, there have been no problems. So far, so since the beginning, so far, so good. So it's just a little thing we say in English. This video has been going really well. So far, so good. We have a few minutes left, but so far, so good. Things have been going well. A few weeks ago, I did a live stream and the connection wasn't very good, but this one's working really well. So far, so good. Let's see. Davey from the US. So I'm going to take a little, I'm just going to modify this a bit, Davey, because I don't want to get this. Just give me a second here. So on the news recently, let me just fix this. So Davey heard on the news recently that he died like a dog. Usually a dog is our friend. How do I understand this? So that phrase in English is actually a really old phrase. It's not very common for people to use that phrase anymore. But sometimes I don't like to talk about pets this way, but sometimes if a dog isn't a good dog, sometimes when that dog dies, you'll say he died like a dog. I'm not explaining this well, Davey. I think you'll need to look that phrase up on the internet. It's kind of an old phrase, and it's not a very nice phrase to say that someone died like a dog. So look it up on Google. Hopefully you can find a good explanation of that. Let me get a couple more questions here. Ali says, hi, Bob. Please, I want to practice English with a foreign people on the internet for free. Do you know some websites that can help me? Thank you. Here's what I know. The world of learning English on the internet for free works with listening, reading, and writing. It's hard to find someone to speak to, especially a native English speaker, who will do it for free. If you look in my description below, there's a link to a website called Preply where you can hire someone. I know sometimes it's hard to have money. So if you don't have money, it's difficult, and I do feel bad. But at a certain point in your life, sometimes you do need to hire someone. You do need to spend a little bit of money. So sorry about that. Let's see here. Do one more here. Ichigan. So here's the last question, folks, and then we're going to wrap it up. Ichigan says, "Hi, Bob. What is the funniest costume you've ever worn on Halloween?" Well, I dressed up like a rock star from the 70s once, and I wore a wig with really long hair, and I wore like a really colorful shirt and a leather jacket and sunglasses. So, and last year, not for Halloween, but last year I dressed up as a truck driver. That was probably the funniest one that I ever dressed up as. Hey, anyways, just a couple of things, people. Please don't forget tomorrow, please come back and watch this video again and turn on the subtitles, especially if there were parts of this video that you didn't understand. So come back tomorrow and listen to this or watch this again. I'm Bob the Canadian. You're learning English with Bob the Canadian. There will be a new video on Tuesday. If you have not subscribed to this channel yet, there's a red button either right there or down there somewhere. There's a red button where you can subscribe, and you can click the little bell as well. That will help you get notified. And yes, there will be a new lesson on Tuesday. There will be a new video on Tuesday. It will be, I'll tell a couple little stories about myself, and you'll have to guess which one is a lie, but I'll do it as an English lesson. And there will be a live stream next Friday as well. So anyways, I'm going to wrap this up. Thanks to the 480 people that joined us tonight. You guys are awesome. Don't forget to share my videos with your friends. Don't forget to, just keep learning English. Find something to read this week. Do some writing this week. Do some listening this week. Do some speaking this week, even if it's just yourself in the mirror, and learn a few new vocabulary words. Anyways, thanks so much for watching. I'm just going to type that in the chat. Thanks for watching. That's it. I'm sorry I didn't get to all the questions. There are many, many questions, and sometimes there's just too many for me to answer. I hope this was helpful for you. So again, don't forget to subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. Watch this again tomorrow. Be nice to everybody in your life. Smile a lot. Be kind to everyone. Did I say that already? And I will see you next Tuesday with a new video, and I'll see you next Friday with a new live lesson. I'm going to push this button, and you guys should enjoy your Saturday night or your Sunday morning.